Russia didn't just lose ground in April, it lost its oil, its warships, its warplanes, and 35,000 soldiers, and the world barely noticed. Stay with us, because what Ukraine pulled off last month rewrites everything you thought you knew about this war. For years, analysts said Ukraine couldn't reach deep into Russia. Too far, too defended, too risky. April 2024 just buried that argument. Ukraine launched the most devastating long-range campaign in this war's history, not in a week, not across a season, but in a single month. 14 of Russia's oil refineries and fuel hubs were struck. Harbors handling 40% of Russia's oil exports were set ablaze. Two of Russia's most advanced stealth fighters, the Su-57, Putin's answer to the F-22, were caught burning on a runway over 1,700 kilometers from the front line. And if you're wondering how a country fighting for survival managed all of this at once, keep watching, because the answer changes the entire picture of this war. If this is the kind of deep analysis you're here for, hit subscribe right now. We break this down every single day. Let's start with the oil. Ukraine's Ministry of Defense confirmed strikes on 14 separate Russian energy targets throughout April. The Novokuibyshev refinery in Samara, 8 million tons of annual processing capacity, 20 types of petroleum products, many going directly to Russia's military, was left in flames. The Yaroslavl refinery, which supplies gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel for Russian warplanes, was struck by drones that flew 750 kilometers to get there. The Ufimsky refinery in Bashkortostan, a facility producing lubricants and high-grade oils at 7 million tons per year, was hammered and left burning. And TANECO, perhaps the most targeted refinery in Russia's entire network, was struck on April 16th, again on April 28th, and then hit once more on May 1st, as though Ukraine wanted to make sure the message was impossible to misread. By the time April ended, TANECO had lost at least 24 fuel storage tanks and seen multiple processing units go offline. That plant alone handles 4.4% of Russia's total refining output, including Euro 5 standard fuel used exclusively by the Russian military. The strikes kept reaching further too, into Perm, into Orsk, into cities more than 1,500 kilometers from Ukraine's border, and Russia's air defenses did nothing to stop them. But here's what the refinery numbers don't fully capture. And this is the part most coverage gets wrong. Don't go anywhere, because this is where April gets truly historic. Ukraine wasn't just burning individual facilities. It was systematically destroying the entire Russian oil supply chain from end to end. Think about what that means. It struck oil drilling platforms in the Caspian Sea, 1,000 kilometers from the front lines, attacking the crude oil before it ever reaches a refinery. It struck the refineries themselves, destroying the processing infrastructure that turns crude into sellable products. It struck the export harbors, Primorsk and Ust-Luga on the Baltic, handling 40% of Russia's total maritime oil exports, igniting storage tank after storage tank, and it hunted the shadow fleet tankers carrying that oil to buyers. On April 29th, Ukrainian drones struck the Maria, a tanker sanctioned by the UK, EU, Canada, New Zealand, and Switzerland, caught sailing under Cameroon's flag with its tracking transponder disabled, the classic ghost ship tactic of Russia's shadow fleet. Ukraine wasn't impressed. It delivered what it called kinetic sanctions. The result? Russia's oil exports dropped 16.8% in April, a shortfall of 1.8 million tons compared to March, at the exact moment Russia had been expected to gain an extra $150 million per day from elevated global oil prices. Instead of banking that windfall, Putin watched his export infrastructure burn. Now, if you've been following this channel, you know that every month we ask the same question: how long can Russia sustain this? April's answer was the most damning yet. And it wasn't only about oil. Ukraine's Navy launched Neptune anti-ship missiles into the Taganrog facility, responsible for manufacturing Russia's Orion surveillance drones and components used in Kh-50 cruise missiles and Kab-500 guided bombs. The Strela plant in Bryansk, which has fulfilled 120 government contracts supplying components for Russia's cruise rocket program, was struck on April 1st. Russia fired 141 rockets into Ukraine in April alone, a record monthly figure for this war. Ukraine just took out one of the factories keeping that program alive. In the Black Sea, Ukraine destroyed two Project 775 landing ships, the Yamal and the Nikolai Filchenkov, with a combined value of $150 million. Struck them on April 20th and again on April 26th to make sure. A Bayan-M frigate capable of launching Caliber cruise missiles was also hit. Two patrol boats guarding the Kerch Bridge, the critical link between occupied Crimea and the Russian mainland, were taken out, potentially clearing the path for future strikes on the bridge itself. And on April 25th came the moment that stopped military analysts in their tracks. Ukraine struck the Shagol airfield in the Chelyabinsk region, 1,700 kilometers inside Russia, and destroyed up to 4 warplanes, including 2 Su-57 stealth jets. The Su-57 is Russia's most advanced combat aircraft. Its crown jewel, the plane Putin has spent decades developing to compete with the West. 2 of them were destroyed on the ground in a region so far from Ukraine that Russia had almost certainly never considered it threatened. The air defense system protecting that base apparently had no answer. And then there are the numbers that make all of this even harder for Moscow to absorb. Ukrainian President Zelensky confirmed 35,000 Russian casualties in April, killed or wounded. That matches the record set in March. April also marked the 5th consecutive month where Russia lost more soldiers than it recruited. Ukraine's drone strikes alone have cost Russia 156,735 confirmed casualties between December and April. Over the same 5 months, Russia recruited 148,400 soldiers. The math doesn't work for the Kremlin. Ukraine simultaneously doubled its medium-range strike volume, attacks between 20 and 150 kilometers, compared to March, and quadrupled it compared to February. These are the strikes that shred command posts, logistics chains, supply depots, and ammunition stores, the hidden infrastructure that allows Russia to keep pushing on the front lines. Destroy enough of it, and the front itself begins to crack. What April revealed isn't a lucky month. It's a strategy reaching full operational maturity. Ukraine has built a layered, simultaneous assault across every dimension of Russian war-making capacity: energy, manufacturing, naval power, air power, troop supply. No single strike wins a war. But this isn't single strikes. This is the architecture of economic and military collapse applied month by month, refinery by refinery, warship by warship. Russia has no visible answer. Its air defenses are failing at distances and in regions it once considered untouchable. Its oil revenues, the financial engine of the entire war machine, are contracting under direct attack. Its best warplanes are burning on runways 1,000 miles from the nearest Ukrainian soldier. This is not the ceiling. Ukraine's defense minister has already signaled further escalation across all strike categories. The question for May isn't whether Ukraine continues, it's how much further it reaches. If you want to understand exactly what Ukraine is targeting in its medium-range strikes and why one specific strike on April 16th may mark a turning point in how this war ends, that analysis is already live. Watch it next. And if daily breakdowns of what's actually happening in this war, without the noise, are what you're looking for, subscribing takes 2 seconds and means you never miss what matters.